Hello, this is Gary Flispart. In a previous talk in this series, I explained how to download a current version of Debian Live Mate as an ISO image file from the web. This is the official Debian 9 release, and you download it, and then how to burn it using Windows to a DVD, and then test that by loading it up, booting it up as opposed to Windows. Now I'm going to show how to do the same thing using the same ISO file, but not to a DVD, to a USB stick. First thing you need is a USB stick that's big enough. Anything bigger than 4 gigabytes, or as big as 4 gigabytes, will work, because the total image is only about that big. This particular USB stick is 32 gigabytes. This is getting harder and harder to find even smaller ones. In any event, I will plug that disk in. It will recognize it. If I bring it up, I'll show you that this particular one is empty. If I look at it as properties, you'll see that it is a FAT32 drive. That's important. The system wants you to put it on a FAT32 drive. You can have the program that we're going to use format it, but there's no need to if it's already formatted FAT32, just as long as it's empty. So, given that, we're going to use a program that I've used successfully under Windows for some time called Universal USB Installer. Now, you can find that by going to Google, Universal USB Installer. When you go to the Pendrive Linux site here, you'll find Universal USB Installer. Go down the page, you'll find Download. You download it, and then save it. And when you have it, because it's not very big, you can then run that program. You'll look for Debian Live in the drop-down list. Select the distribution from the drop-down list. You pick Debian Live. You browse. Go to the same folder that you put the ISO in. You select it. Open it. You now have that there, and it says select the drive letter of your USB. Now you have to make sure this is the right one. You don't want to accidentally format the wrong thing. But this is showing you the same drive that I just showed you a minute ago, and it's on the F drive at this point. Now I have the option of formatting it to either FAT32 MTFS or not formatting it at all. I don't need to format it, it's already formatted FAT32, so I'll go ahead and hit create. And this will prepare the disk and copy the contents of the ISO to that drive. This takes a little while, so I may pause the video and come back later. Okay, I'm back. The process of copying the contents to the USB stick is almost finished. Most of it is simply copying files, which is fairly close to finished. It takes up approximately 2 gigabytes in this case on the drive. As I said, you can use any USB stick that's large enough to hold the image and boot files. It does a few things after it was done. Now it says copy done, process is complete. Close. If I look at the drive that was just created in the list of drives, I see that it's renamed this disk to UUI. I intend to rename that, rename the label of the disk. I'll call it something that's more descriptive, Debian 9. Now that I have a Debian 9 disk, if you look at what's on it, you see the necessary files for booting this thing. And since it's finished, we're going to go ahead and test it. I'm going to shut down Windows. I could remove the drive, but I'm just going to put it right back in as soon as I boot, so I'll just leave it there. When the system boots down, okay, here it goes part again. Now that the system has rebooted, shut down, I'm going to show you how to take the USB stick. I still have the USB stick inserted in the drive. I'm going to show you how to boot from that USB stick. Now, first thing we have to do, as we had to do with the DVD, is you have to make sure that it's in a mode that is possible to boot. On this particular machine, I have to go to the boot mode and take it off of UEFI. Now, technically, this would boot in UEFI mode if secure boot were turned off. But on this particular machine, secure boot mode is tied to the UEFI, and I can't easily remove the secure boot mode from UEFI, so I boot it as legacy BIOS. It works, so I don't complain. If I now do this, it should be able to automatically boot from the USB stick at this point, but if I have to, I would press the F12 boot menu. At any event, it successfully booted to the main menu for the Debian 9 disk. As before, I have a list of items on here, including installers, which we won't use at this time. We'll use it in the form that boots live. That way it makes no changes to the underlying computer until and unless you want to do so. At any event, this is the 686 kernel, so it's for 32-bit systems. I hit enter, and it'll boot. Note that the computer itself actually has a 64-bit processor and is quite capable of running a 64-bit version of Linux. I'm just demonstrating the 686 version that's good for 32-bit. I consider the 32-bit version a little more universal. It will work on more machines. It'll almost always work on a modern computer. If you can get it to boot at all, it'll work. Okay, it's booted, and if you saw the DVD intro, it booted considerably faster than the DVD would boot. This isn't even a particularly fast USB stick. It was a cheap USB stick I got for somewhere on the order of $5. At any event, as before, I'll demonstrate this again. Because Linux ties its time to UTC instead of local time, the way Windows does, I can avoid problems with the Windows machine I'm running on having its clock reset if I tell it the local location first. It'll keep the file's timestamps correct. I go to Locations and Edit. I add, in my case, Louisville, and I see Louisville Bowman Field. I select that, OK, and I see the things I can look at in general. One of the things I do is I change the weather units to Fahrenheit and miles per hour. if I set time zone, I now show 57 degrees Fahrenheit up here. And I now have time 12:31, 5 hours earlier than it showed a few minutes ago. At any event, this is now showing you a booted up system from the new Debian. This is the official Debian release. It has the stuff on it that comes with Debian. Okay, now that we have successfully booted up into Linux, we could continue to use it, explore it. You can see that the Debian environment has a variety of applications in it. Firefox. It has some system tools. It tends to be relatively limited because they're making it a broad use to other people. The purpose of the GLFPE, the GLF Programming Environment live boot disks that I distribute, is to package a suite of applications and libraries that I find useful and want to share those techniques with other people. I package them into my own custom distribution. Later in the series, I'll demonstrate how to use that official distribution plus a configuration file that I supply and turn it into a fairly close replication of what I have done in my GLFPE. The difference would be that you might have slightly newer versions of the applications because the live build process that we'll use always uses the latest versions of the files. In any event, goodbye for now.